The forest had no name. The wolves who lived at its edge called it simply the Vale, the place where the world ended and something older began. No one who entered ever returned. Elowen had heard the stories since childhood. Every pup in the Silvercrest pack grew up whispering about the monster that dwelt in those endless shadows. A beast so twisted by darkness that even the moon refused to shine upon it. A creature that fed on wolves foolish enough to wander too deep. Now, as rough hands shoved her forward through the undergrowth, Elowen realized she was about to become another story mothers told their children at night. Move faster, Omega. The voice belonged to Vaskar, the pack's head enforcer. His grip on her arm was iron, his claws half extended, cutting shallow crescents into her skin. The sooner we're done with you, the sooner we can leave this cursed place. Elowen stumbled over a root, her bare feet already bloodied from the march. They had taken her shoes. They had taken everything, her belongings, her place in the pack, her future. All stripped away in a single ceremony that still echoed in her mind. You are rejected, unworthy. Omega. Alpha Draven's voice had been cold as winter stone when he spoke the words. She had stood before the entire pack, forced to bare her throat in submission while he denounced her. No wolf will claim you. No wolf will shelter you. You are nothing. And then he had smiled that cruel, beautiful smile she had once been foolish enough to admire and pronounced her sentence. Give her to the Vale. The trees grew denser here, their branches weaving together overhead until only slivers of moonlight pierced through. The air itself felt heavier, older, and thick with the scent of moss and decay and something else. Something that made the wolf inside Elowen whimper and press against her bones. Please, the word escaped before she could stop it. Whatever I did to offend the Alpha, I can make amends. I can... Vaskar's backhand snapped her head to the side. Stars exploded across her vision. You offended him by existing, Vaskar growled. A wolfless Omega with no family, no gifts, no value. You should be grateful he's giving your death meaning. Wolfless. The word cut deeper than his claws ever could. It was true Elowen had never been able to shift. While other wolves transformed with the ease of breathing, her inner beast remained locked away, silent and unreachable no matter how desperately she called to it. A defect. A shame. A waste of pack resources. They emerged into a clearing, and Elowen's breath caught in her throat. Ancient stones jutted from the earth in a rough circle, their surfaces carved with symbols that seemed to writhe in the flickering moonlight. At the center of the circle, a massive oak tree stood alone but wrong. Its trunk was blackened as if by fire, its branches bare and clawing at the sky like skeletal fingers. And wrapped around that trunk, half hidden in shadow, chains, enormous. Iron chains, thick as her arm, bolted to the stone and earth. Something was bound to that tree. No. Elowen dug her heels into the dirt, but Vaskar simply lifted her off her feet and carried her forward. No, please, I don't want to die. What you want hasn't mattered for a very long time, little Omega. He threw her. Elowen hit the ground hard, her palms scraping against stone, her cry of pain swallowed by the oppressive silence of the clearing. She heard Vaskar's footsteps retreating, heard the other enforcers following, their pace quickening with barely concealed fear. Then she heard it, breathing, low and ragged, like stones grinding together, coming from the shadows at the base of the tree. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to flee into the forest and take her chances with the darkness rather than face whatever horror lay chained before her. But Elowen's legs wouldn't obey. She could only kneel there, trembling, as the breathing grew louder. Something shifted in the darkness, something massive. Moonlight fell through a gap in the branches, and Elowen saw him. Not an it, a him. He was enormous, even hunched and broken. She could tell he would tower over any wolf she had ever seen. His body was caught somewhere between man and beast, muscles corded beneath skin that was mottled with scars and strange, dark tendrils that pulsed with each labored breath. Matted dark hair fell across his face, and the chains bit deep into his flesh, the iron sizzling where it touched him as though his very blood burned. This was no mindless monster. This was a wolf who had been tortured, poisoned, and left to rot in this forgotten place. Elowen's fear didn't vanish, but something else rose alongside it, something that felt dangerously like recognition. She pushed herself to her feet. Run, her mind screamed. Run now. while he's still bound. Instead, she took a step forward. His head snapped up at the movement, and Elowen froze. Eyes met hers through the curtain of tangled hair, eyes that blazed like molten gold, feral and ancient, and filled with so much pain that her heart clenched. Those eyes tracked her as she took another step, then another. She was close enough now to see the wounds beneath the chains, the flesh rubbed raw and weeping, close enough to smell blood and iron and something else, something wild and electric that made her dormant wolf stir for the first time in her life. "You're suffering," Elowen whispered. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears, steadier than it had any right to be. "You've been suffering for a long time," the man snarled, but there was no strength behind it. A warning given by a being too exhausted to enforce it. Elowen knelt before him. Slowly, as if approaching a wounded animal, she raised her hand. "Don't," she told herself. "Don't touch the monster." Her palm pressed against his cheek. The world erupted. Pain and power and something vast and ancient slammed into her. Consciousness like a tidal wave. She saw flashes, a throne room bathed in blood, wolves bowing before a figure wreathed in shadow, a woman's laughter as silver chains closed around struggling limbs, and a name that echoed through her mind like thunder. Theron. The creature's eyes flew wide. The gold blazed brighter, and for one impossible moment, clarity cut through the madness in his gaze. His cracked lips parted. His voice, when it came, was rusted from disuse, but the word he spoke shattered everything Elowen thought she knew. "Mate." The word hung in the air between them, impossible and terrifying and true, in a way Elowen couldn't explain. "Mate." Her hand was still pressed to his cheek. She should pull away. Every rational thought demanded it, but her body refused to obey. Heat pulsed where their skin connected, spreading through her palm and up her arm, settling in her chest like a second heartbeat. The creature, Theron, her mind whispered, that's his name, stared at her with those burning golden eyes. The feral madness was still there, lurking at the edges, but something else had surfaced. Something that looked almost like wonder. "That's not possible," Elowen breathed. "I'm wolfless. I don't have a mate. I can't have a mate." His only response was a low sound deep in his chest, not quite a growl, not quite a whimper. His massive body shuddered, and she watched the cursed corruption pulse beneath his skin, spreading another inch toward his heart. Poison. Whatever was killing him, it was still working, still consuming him from within. Elowen finally pulled her hand back, and Theron made a sound of such raw anguish that it nearly drove her to touch him again. The connection between them, whatever it was, screamed at the separation. "I need to think," she said, more to herself than to him. "I need to—" A howl split the night, distant but distinct. An answering call followed, then another. Silvercrest wolves, her former pack. Elowen's blood turned to ice. "They're checking. They want to make sure I'm dead. If they found her alive, if they found her with him, they would kill her themselves. Slowly. Painfully. A lesson to any other Omega who might dream of surviving their sentence. But she couldn't run. Even if she wanted to abandon this broken creature to his fate, she couldn't outrun a hunting party. And something deeper, something that had nothing to do with survival, refused to leave him. "I'm going to help you," Elowen said, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. "I don't know how, but I'm going to try." Theron's head tilted, tracking her voice like a wolf following prey. But he didn't lunge, didn't attack. He simply waited. Elowen examined the chains more closely, her stomach churning at what she found. The iron wasn't merely wrapped around him, it was embedded in places, driven through flesh and into the tree behind him. Whoever had done this hadn't wanted him to escape. They had wanted him to suffer for eternity. The dark tendrils were concentrated around the chain wounds, she realized. The poison wasn't natural, it was being fed into him through the metal itself. "I need to get these off you," she murmured, testing one of the chains. It burned against her palms, and she hissed, pulling back. "But I'm not strong enough. I don't have tools, I don't have—" Her gaze fell on the ancient stones surrounding them. The carved symbols she had dismissed as decoration were glowing faintly now, pulsing in rhythm with Theron's labored breathing. Not decoration. Magic. This entire clearing was a prison designed for one purpose, to keep him bound. Another howl, closer this time. "Think, Elowen," she muttered. "Think. She wasn't strong. She wasn't a warrior. She couldn't shift. But she had survived 19 years in a pack that despised her, and survival required its own kind of cleverness. Her eyes landed on a chain that was looser than the others, the one wrapped around Theron's left wrist. Time and his struggles had worn the iron thin in one spot. If she could find the right leverage, Elowen grabbed a jagged stone from the ground and began to work at the weakened link. The iron bit into her already wounded hands, blood making her grip slippery. But she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. "Stay with me," she told Theron as she worked. "Don't let the poison take you yet." His gaze never left her face. That same impossible wonder flickered in his expression as if she were the miracle, not him. The link snapped. One chain fell away from his wrist, and Theron roared. The sound shook the ancient stones, sent birds screaming from the dead oak's branches, made Elowen's very bones vibrate with its power. And something else happened. Something that stole the breath from her lungs. Where the chain had fallen away, Theron's flesh began to heal. Slowly, painfully, but healing the corruption in that arm retreating, the torn skin knitting together. The chains, Elowen gasped. "They're not just binding you, they're the source of the poison. If I can remove them all—" A snarl from the tree line cut her off. Vaskar emerged from the shadows, flanked by 2 other enforcers. His yellow eyes swept across the clearing, the kneeling Omega, the partially freed monster, the blood on her hands. His lips curled back from his fangs. Well, well, the worthless little Omega has some fight in her after all. Elowen rose to her feet, placing herself between the enforcers and Theron. It was foolish, suicidal. She was no match for even one of them, but she did it anyway. "Leave this place," she said, her voice steadier than her shaking legs. "Turn around and tell the Alpha I'm dead." Vaskar laughed an ugly, cruel sound. "And why would I do that?" "Because if you don't—" Elowen glanced back at Theron, at the fire still burning in his eyes, at the single freed arm now tensed with renewed strength. "You'll find out exactly what's been chained here for so long. And you won't survive the discovery." For a moment, just a moment, she saw fear flicker in Vaskar's gaze. His wolf recognized something that his human mind refused to accept. Then his expression hardened. "Kill her, and put the beast down while you're at it. The Alpha wants this finished." The enforcers lunged. Elowen braced for death, but it never came. The chain around Theron's other wrist exploded. Not broken, shattered, as if some force had detonated the iron from within. And the creature who had been too weak to lift his head now rose to his full height, towering over them all. The moonlight caught his form as his body shifted, bones cracking and reforming, matted hair receding as his humanity surged forward. For one crystalline moment, Elowen saw him. Not the monster, not the beast. Him. Dark hair, tangled but no longer matted. A face carved from stone, beautiful and terrible, with cheekbones sharp enough to cut and a jaw shadowed with dark stubble. And those eyes, still molten gold, but now alight with something far more dangerous than madness. Recognition. His gaze found Vaskar, and the enforcer's confidence crumbled. "I know you," Theron said. His voice was thunder. His voice was ruin. "I remember what you are." Then his hand closed around Vaskar's throat, and Elowen saw the true monster in the clearing. It wasn't the one in chains. Vaskar's body hit the ground with a sound Elowen would never forget. The other 2 enforcers didn't even try to fight. They ran, crashing through the undergrowth, their howls of terror echoing through the forest. The sound would bring more wolves, more enemies. But right now, in this moment, there was only him. Theron stood amid the carnage, breathing hard. The partial shift had cost him. She could see it in the tremor of his limbs, the way the dark veins were already creeping back across his chest. Whatever brief surge of strength had freed him was fading fast. His eyes found hers. Elowen should have been afraid. She had just watched him kill a wolf with his bare hands. But all she felt was an overwhelming urge to go to him, to touch him again, to soothe the pain she could somehow feel radiating through whatever strange connection bound them together. "You need to lie down," she said instead, her healer's instincts taking over. "You're still—" Theron took one step toward her, then another. His movements were unsteady, a king relearning how to walk after an eternity in chains. "You freed me." His voice was raw, words scraping through a throat that hadn't formed them in what must have been years. "Why?" I don't know, Elowen admitted. It was the truth. She didn't understand any of this. The pull she felt toward him, the word he had spoken, the visions that had flooded her mind when she touched him. I just couldn't leave you there. Something shifted in his expression. The cold fury that had driven him to kill melted into something softer, more vulnerable. No one has touched me without intent to harm in 7 years. His hand rose slowly, as if afraid she might flee, and his fingers brushed her cheek. No one has spoken to me with kindness in longer than that. 7 years. He had been chained to that tree for 7 years. Who did this to you? Elowen whispered. Theron's jaw tightened. A question with a long answer. One I cannot give before. His legs buckled. Elowen caught him or tried to. His weight drove her to her knees, and they collapsed together onto the blood-stained earth. She managed to cushion his fall, his head coming to rest in her lap. Stay awake, she commanded, pressing her palm to his forehead. He was burning with fever, his skin almost too hot to touch. Tell me what the chains were doing to you. Tell me how to help. Can't be helped. His eyes were flickering now, gold fading in and out like a dying flame. The curse, too deep, would need the blood of the one who cast it. Or, his gaze sharpened on her face. Or the bond. A true mate bond. But that's... You called me mate, Elowen interrupted. In the clearing, you said, impossible. A ghost of bitter humor crossed his face. That's what I was going to say. Impossible. I am the monster in the woods. I have no mate. The moon abandoned me long ago. But even as he spoke, his hand found hers, their fingers intertwining like they had done this 1,000 times before. Elowen felt it again, that surge of heat, that sense of something clicking into place. Her dormant wolf, silent for 19 years, stirred in her chest. Not waking, not yet, but aware in a way it had never been. What if it's not impossible? She asked quietly. What if the moon didn't abandon you? What if she was just... waiting? Theron stared up at her. In the moonlight, with blood on his hands and poison in his veins, he looked nothing like a monster. He looked like a man who had forgotten what hope felt like and was terrified to remember. You should run from me, he rasped. When dawn comes, when I am stronger, I may not be able to control. I'm not running. You don't understand what I am. Then show me. The words hung between them. A challenge, an invitation. Theron's free hand rose to cup the back of her neck, drawing her closer. Elowen's heart hammered against her ribs. She should stop this, should demand answers before anything else happened. But when his forehead pressed against hers, when his breath mingled with her own, all her protests dissolved. If I show you, he murmured, there is no going back. You will see everything, and you will be bound to it forever. Elowen thought of her pack, who had thrown her away like garbage, thought of her 19 years of loneliness, of being told she was nothing, would always be nothing. Maybe I want to be bound to something, she whispered. Maybe I want to belong. Theron made a sound somewhere between a groan and a prayer. Then he tilted her head to the side, exposing the column of her throat. This will hurt, he warned. I know. His mouth found the curve of her neck. Not teeth, not yet. Just lips, impossibly gentle against her racing pulse. A question asked without words. Elowen's answer was to press closer. Pain, sharp and bright, as his fangs pierced her skin. But beneath the pain was something else, a flood of images, sounds, sensations pouring directly into her mind. A great hall filled with wolves bowing before a throne, the crown of the Alpha King gleaming in torchlight. Theron younger, unbroken, magnificent, raising his hand to silence the crowd. A woman with silver hair and a serpent's smile. Poison slipped into wine. Chains forged in secret. A betrayal whispered in the dark. 7 years of agony. 7 years of forgetting who he was. 7 years of waiting for death that never came. And beneath it all, a name that made Elowen's blood turn to ice. Seraphina, the Silver Queen, High Priestess of the Silvercrest Pack, the Alpha's mother, Draven's mother, the woman who had cursed the true Alpha King and stolen his throne. Elowen wrenched back with a gasp, Theron's fangs sliding free of her flesh. Blood trickled down her neck, but she barely felt it. Her mind was reeling, struggling to process what she had seen. "It was her," she choked out. "Serafina. She did this to you. She stole everything," Theron finished. His voice was steadier now, his eyes brighter. The bond, incomplete as it was, had given him strength. "My crown, my pack, my identity. She erased me from history and raised her son as the rightful alpha. Draven, the wolf who had rejected her, who had sentenced her to death, was sitting on a stolen throne. Why?" Elowen demanded. "Why would she?" "Because I refused her." Theron's expression hardened. "She wanted to be my queen. I chose another, so she destroyed us both. My chosen mate murdered, myself imprisoned, and my memory wiped from every wolf who might have remembered the truth. The pieces were falling into place now, horrible, devastating pieces. The sacrifices," Elowen breathed. "The Omegas thrown into the veil. They weren't feeding a monster. They were keeping me weak, keeping the curse fed." Theron's hand tightened around hers. "Every death gave Serafina's magic more power. Every life taken ensured I would never break free." Elowen thought of all the wolves who had been sent into this forest over the years. Dozens, maybe hundreds. She was supposed to have been one of them. "But I didn't die," she said slowly. "I touched you, and you didn't kill me. Why?" Theron looked at her, really looked at her, and something ancient and reverent stirred in his gaze. "Because the curse has one flaw," he said softly. "One loophole Serafina never anticipated. A true mate's touch cannot be corrupted. A true mate's blood is the only thing that can break the chains she forged." His thumb traced across her knuckles. "I have waited 7 years for someone the curse couldn't twist into another sacrifice. 7 years for you." The words should have terrified her. Instead, they settled into her chest like a key sliding into a lock. "What happens now?" Elowen asked. Before Theron could answer, the forest exploded with howls. Not 2 or 3 wolves this time. Dozens. "Now," Theron said grimly, "we survive long enough for me to tell you the rest." He tried to rise and failed, the brief strength from their incomplete bond already fading. The dark veins were spreading again, reaching toward his heart. Elowen looked from the dying king to the approaching army to her own bloodied, trembling hands. Then she did the only thing she could. She pressed her bleeding palm against his lips. "Drink," she commanded. "If my blood can break the curse, then take what you need." Theron's eyes flared with hunger and hope, and as the first wolves burst into the clearing, as moonlight blazed down upon the ancient stones, as everything Elowen had ever known crumbled around her, the true Alpha King began to rise. The first wolf through the trees was massive, a gray-furred brute with murder in its yellow eyes. It lunged straight for Elowen's throat. It never reached her. Theron moved like shadow given form, intercepting the attack with a snarl that shook the earth. His body was still more man than wolf, still weakened by poison and chains, but her blood on his lips had ignited something primal. "Stay behind me," he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. An alpha's voice, one that expected obedience from every wolf who heard it. But these wolves didn't bow. They circled, more and more of them pouring into the clearing, their minds bound to another master. Elowen pressed her back against the ancient oak, watching Theron fight. Even diminished, even dying, he was magnificent. Each movement was precise, brutal, and economical. A slash of claws here, a devastating strike there. Wolves fell before him like wheat before a scythe. But there were too many. For every one he felled, 3 more took its place. And the cursed corruption was spreading faster now, fed by his exertion. He was burning through whatever strength her blood had given him. "He's going to die," Elowen realized with crystalline horror. "He's going to die protecting me, and I can't do anything to stop it." Something cracked inside her chest. Not her heart. Something deeper. Something that had been locked away her entire life, waiting for this moment to break free. Heat exploded through her veins. Not the gentle warmth of the mate bond, but a roaring inferno that threatened to consume her from within. Elowen screamed as light erupted from her palms, golden and blinding, flooding the clearing like a second Sunday. The attacking wolves recoiled, yelping in pain and confusion. Even Theron stumbled back, shielding his eyes. And Elowen burned. She didn't understand what was happening, didn't know how to control it. The power poured out of her in waves, and everywhere it touched, the darkness fled. The symbols on the ancient stones flared and then shattered. The cursed oak groaned, its blackened bark cracking as something pure forced the corruption out. When the light finally faded, Elowen collapsed to her knees, gasping. The clearing was transformed. Where darkness had pooled, moonlight now shone freely. The attacking wolves had fled into the forest, their howls of retreat echoing through the trees. And Theron was staring at her like she had just reshaped the world. What? Elowen looked down at her hands, still faintly glowing. What am I? Impossible. Theron crossed to her in 3 strides, dropping to his knees before her. His hands cupped her face, tilting it up to meet his burning gaze. You're a light bearer. The last one died 200 years ago. I don't know what that means. It means... He broke off, his thumb tracing her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. It means the moon didn't just send me a mate. She sent me a miracle. Elowen's laugh came out broken. I'm not a miracle. I'm a wolfless omega who just accidentally set myself on fire. You purified this ground. Theron gestured at the transformed clearing. Centuries of dark magic, gone in an instant. Do you understand what that means? Seraphina's curse, you could break it, not just weaken it, destroy it entirely. The implications crashed over her like a wave. If she could break the curse, if she could free Theron completely, that's why, she breathed. That's why the mate bond formed between us. Not despite what I am, but because of it. The moon doesn't make mistakes. Theron pressed his forehead to hers, and she felt his relief, his wonder, and his hope flowing through their connection. She paired me with the one soul in existence who could save me, who could save everything. For a moment they simply breathed together, 2 broken creatures finding wholeness in each other. Then Theron tensed. What is it? Elowen asked. The wolves that fled. They'll report to Seraphina. His jaw tightened. She'll know what you are now, what you can do. She won't just want you dead anymore. What will she want? His gaze met hers, and the fear in them was more terrifying than any monster. She'll want to use you, a light-bearer's power, corrupted and turned to darkness. He shook his head. We need to move, now, before she comes for you herself. He helped her to her feet, and Elowen swayed against him, the energy drained from her unexpected power leaving her hollowed out. I don't know how I did that, she admitted. I don't know if I can do it again. You will learn. Theron's arm wrapped around her waist, steadying her. I will teach you. But first, we must find somewhere safe. Where? Elowen asked bitterly. My pack wants me dead. Yours has been stolen. Where in this world is safe for us? Theron was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of a decision long avoided. There is one place. The hallowed caves, where the first wolves made their pact with the moon. Seraphina's magic is weakened there. The sacred ground resists her darkness, though it cannot block her entirely. He paused. But the journey is dangerous, and in my current state. Then we'll make you stronger. Elowen straightened, meeting his gaze with determination that surprised them both. Whatever it takes, however much blood you need, I'm not losing you now that I've just found you. Something raw and vulnerable flickered across his face. You would do that? He asked quietly. Give your blood, your power, to a monster you met hours ago. Elowen reached up to touch his face, her palm fitting against his jaw like it belonged there. You're not a monster, she said firmly. You're mine. The word hung between them, a claim, a promise, a declaration of war against everyone who had tried to break them. Theron's response was to sweep her into his arms and carry her into the darkness of the forest, leaving the ruins of Seraphina's prison behind. They traveled for 3 days. Theron knew paths through the forest that no map showed, ancient trails used by wolves before packs had names, before alphas wore crowns. He carried Elowen when her strength failed, which was often. The power she had unleashed in the clearing had left her depleted in ways she didn't fully understand. But with each passing hour, with each drop of blood she gave him, Theron grew stronger. The dark corruption retreated further. His steps became steadier. The moments of feral confusion that had plagued him in the first days grew rarer, and between them, the bond deepened. It happened in small moments, the way his hand would find hers in the darkness, the way she would curl against him when they rested, fitting perfectly into the curve of his body. The way he would murmur stories of his past while she drifted toward sleep tales of the kingdom he had ruled, the wolves who had loved him, the future that had been stolen. "Tell me about her," Elowyn asked on the second night, wrapped in his arms beneath a canopy of stars. "Your chosen mate, the one Seraphina killed." Theron was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. "Her name was Astrid," he finally said. "She was kind, gentle, everything a queen should be." His voice carried old grief, scarred over but never fully healed. "Seraphina poisoned her wine the night before our bonding ceremony. I held her while she died." Elowyn's heart clenched. "I'm sorry. I thought I would never feel anything again after that." His arms tightened around her. "I was wrong." She tilted her head back to look at him, and the intensity in his gaze stole her breath. "Elowyn," her name on his lips sounded like prayer. "What I feel for you, it terrifies me. The bond is incomplete, and already you consume my every thought. When it is finished, when we are fully mated," he trailed off, struggling for words, "I may not be able to let you go. Ever. For anything. Maybe I don't want you to let me go. You don't understand. A complete bond between an alpha and a light bearer, it would be permanent, unbreakable. If one of us died, the other would follow." His hand cupped her face, his thumb tracing her lower lip. "I would be asking you to tie your life to mine forever. And my life may be short. Seraphina will not stop hunting me. Then we stop her first." Theron made a sound that was half laugh, half groan. "You say that like it's simple." "I didn't say it was simple. I said we do it." Elowyn sat up, turning to face him fully. "You were a king, Theron. You had an army, allies, wolves who believed in you. Are they all gone? Every single one?" Hope flickered in his expression, quickly suppressed. "There were some who escaped Seraphina's purge, loyalists who went into hiding when I was taken, but I have no way to reach them. No way to prove I still live." "Then we find a way." Elowyn's chin lifted stubbornly. "You're not alone anymore. Neither am I. That has to count for something." Theron stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled her back into his arms, his face buried in her hair. "What did I do to deserve you?" he murmured against her throat. "You survived," Elowyn whispered back. That was enough. They reached the hallowed caves on the evening of the third day. The entrance was hidden behind a waterfall, the roar of water masking any sounds from within. Theron led her through the cascade, his hand warm and steady in hers. Inside, the cave opened into a vast chamber lit by crystals that glowed with soft moonlight. Ancient carvings covered the walls, wolves and moons and figures that might have been gods. "It's beautiful," Elowyn breathed. "It's sacred." Theron's voice echoed strangely in the space. "This is where the first alpha received the moon's blessing, where our kind was born." He turned to face her, his expression grave. "And this is where I must ask you to make a choice." Elowyn's stomach tightened. "What choice?" "The bond between us, it cannot remain incomplete. Either we sever it entirely, or we finish it. There is no middle ground." He took both her hands in his. "If we complete the bond, you will change. Your wolf will finally awaken. You will become one of us, truly, fully, and you will be bound to me until death. And if we sever it," pain flickered across his features, "then you will be free, free to return to whatever life you can build, free from the danger that follows me, free from," his voice cracked, "from me." Elowyn looked at this man, this king, this monster, this miracle who had been broken and betrayed and imprisoned for 7 years, who had watched his first love die in his arms, who was offering her freedom even though it would destroy him. "You idiot," she said softly. Theron blinked. "What?" "You absolute idiot." She stepped closer, rising on her toes to bring her face level with his. "I have spent my entire life being told I was worthless, that I didn't belong, that I would never have a pack, a mate, a place in this world. And then you," her voice wavered, "then you looked at me like I was something precious, like I mattered, like I was home." Tears were streaming down her face now, but she didn't care. "Do you really think I would give that up? Give you up? For what safety?" She laughed bitterly. "I was never safe. I was just alone. And I would rather die bound to you than live another day without." Theron kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't tentative. It was urgent and claiming, and everything, every moment of longing, every touch denied, every word unspoken pouring into the press of his lips against hers. Elowen melted into him, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. The bond between them sang with joy, with completion, with the rightness of two souls finally coming together. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Theron rested his forehead against hers. "You're certain?" he asked, his voice rough. "Once it's done, I'm certain." Elowen tilted her head, baring the place on her throat where his mark still lingered. "Make me yours." Completely. Theron's eyes blazed gold, his fangs descended, and in the sacred heart of the hallowed caves, beneath the eternal glow of moon-touched crystals, the Alpha King claimed his true mate. But outside, in the darkness beyond the waterfall, something stirred. A figure emerged from the shadows, a woman with silver hair and a serpent's smile, flanked by wolves with dead eyes and darker souls. Seraphina had found them. The bonding was not gentle. Elowen felt Theron's fangs sink into her throat, felt the rush of power that followed his essence pouring into her veins, merging with her blood, awakening something that had slept inside her for 19 years. Her wolf. It rose within her like a tidal wave, wild and fierce and starving. Elowen screamed, not in pain but in release. Years of silence shattered, years of emptiness flooded with presence. "Finally," the wolf seemed to say. "Finally, you hear me." And then loss, blinding, searing, wrong. Elowen was ripped from Theron's arms by an invisible force that hurled her across the cave. She hit the stone wall hard, the breath driven from her lungs. "No!" Theron's roar shook the cavern, but he couldn't reach her. Silver chains, those chains. The same cursed metal that had bound him for 7 years erupted from the ground, wrapping around his limbs, dragging him to his knees. And through the waterfall stepped Seraphina. She was beautiful in the way that poison was beautiful, silver hair flowing like liquid moonlight, features carved with cold perfection, eyes the color of winter ice. She moved with the grace of someone who had never been denied anything in her life. "What a touching scene," she said, her voice musical and merciless. "The fallen king and his little Omega, playing at love in the sacred caves. How precious." "Release him." Elowen struggled to her feet, her body screaming in protest. The bonding wasn't complete. She could feel it. A raw wound where Theron had been torn away mid-claim. "Whatever you want, take it from me. Let him go." Seraphina laughed. "Oh, sweet child, I intend to take everything from you. But letting him go?" She circled Theron's bound form, trailing one elegant finger along his jaw. "I've waited too long to see him suffer. 7 years wasn't nearly enough," Theron snarled, straining against the chains. "Kill me if you want your revenge, Seraphina, but she has nothing to do with our history." "Nothing to do with it?" Seraphina's eyes glittered with malice. "She has everything to do with it now. A light-bearer mated to the true Alpha King. Do you have any idea how dangerous that makes her?" She turned to face Elowen fully. "Do you have any idea what you could become?" Elowen's hands were glowing faintly, her power rising in response to the threat. "Whatever it is, I'll use it to destroy you." "No," Seraphina smiled. "You'll use it to serve me." She produced a vial from her robes, dark liquid swirling with silver threads. "1 drop of this, and your wolf will answer to me. Your power will flow through my veins, and your precious king will watch you become the weapon that destroys everything he ever loved." "Elowen, don't!" Theron fought against his bonds with frantic fury. "Whatever she's threatening, don't let her touch you." But Seraphina was already moving, faster than any wolf Elowen had ever seen. Her hand closed around Elowen's throat, lifting her off the ground. "Such pretty light," Seraphina murmured, watching the glow pulse beneath Elowen's skin. "Wasted on a reject. A nobody. But in my hands." She raised the vial. "In my hands it will reshape the world." Elowen's vision was darkening at the edges. She could feel Theron's anguish through their incomplete bond, a howl of rage and grief and helplessness that tore at her soul. "I won't let her win," Elowen thought fiercely. "I won't let her take this from us." Her wolf surged forward, and with it came the light, not a burst this time, but a focused beam that she pushed directly into Seraphina's grip. The Silver Queen screamed, releasing Elowin as her hand blackened and smoked. The vial shattered on the stone floor, its contents hissing as they dissolved into nothing. "You little—" Seraphina's beautiful face twisted with rage. "You'll pay for that." She raised her other hand, dark magic gathering in her palm. But Elowin wasn't alone anymore. Her wolf moved with her now, guiding her instincts, lending her strength she'd never known she possessed. She dodged Seraphina's strike, rolled beneath the next, and came up with her hands blazing. "Theron!" she shouted, pouring light toward his chains. "Break free!" The cursed metal shrieked as her power struck it. Cracks appeared, spreading like spiderwebs. Seraphina realized what was happening a moment too late. She lunged for Elowin, dark magic swirling around her like a cloak of shadows. The chains shattered. Theron exploded into his full wolf form for the first time in 7 years. Massive, magnificent, terrifying. His fur was the color of midnight, his eyes blazing gold, and when he howled, the very stones of the cave trembled. Seraphina's wolves tried to intercept him. They fell like leaves before a hurricane. The Silver Queen backed toward the waterfall, her composure cracking. "This isn't over," she hissed. "My son has an army. The moment you leave these caves, you're both dead." She vanished through the cascade, her remaining wolves fleeing after her. Theron shifted back to human form, catching Elowin as her legs finally gave out. "You're hurt," she said weakly, noting the wounds the chains had left. "I'll heal." He gathered her against his chest, his voice rough with emotion. "You saved me. Again. We saved each other." Elowin's hand found the incomplete mark on her throat. "The bond is still unfinished, I know." Theron's jaw tightened. She timed her attack perfectly. A few more moments and then we finish it now. "Elowin, now." She pulled back enough to meet his gaze. "Before she comes back. Before anything else can tear us apart. I want to be yours, Theron. Completely. Now." The fire in his eyes answered her before his words did. This time, when his fangs found her throat, nothing interrupted them. The bond completed with a rush of sensation so intense that Elowin saw stars, not the false darkness of unconsciousness, but actual stars, as if the ceiling of the cave had peeled away to reveal the infinite sky. She felt Theron's soul merge with hers, felt her wolf settle into place, finally whole, felt herself become something new, something powerful, something unbreakable. When it was over, when they lay tangled together on the cave floor, breathing hard and glowing faintly with shared power, Theron pressed a kiss to her forehead. "My queen," he murmured, and for the first time in her life, Elowin believed she was exactly where she was meant to be. But even as warmth flooded her chest, a darker knowledge settled in. Seraphina would return. Her son's army would come. The war for Theron's throne was only beginning. They fled deeper into the hallowed caves that night, following passages even Seraphina's wolves couldn't track. The sacred ground weakened her magic, buying them precious time. For 3 days, they hid in the crystal darkness, healing and hoping. Elowin discovered that Theron laughed rarely, but when he did, the sound transformed his entire face. She learned that he preferred to sleep with her tucked against his chest, one hand always resting over her heart. She found that beneath the king, beneath the warrior, beneath the wolf, there was simply a man who had been alone for far too long. And Theron discovered that his mate had a stubborn streak wider than the mountains, that she talked in her sleep soft murmurs that made his wolf preen with contentment, that she approached her newfound power with fierce determination, practicing for hours, until light flowed from her hands as easily as breath. But peace, they both knew, was borrowed time. On the morning of the 4th day, Elowin woke to find Theron standing at the cave entrance, staring through the waterfall with an expression that made her blood run cold. "What is it?" She rose quickly, crossing to his side. "Smoke." He pointed toward the horizon, where dark columns rose against the pale dawn sky. 3 villages, maybe 4. Elowin's stomach dropped. Seraphina? Her son. Theron's jaw tightened. "Draven is burning the countryside, village by village, looking for us, punishing anyone who might be sheltering the traitor king." "Those people have nothing to do with this," Elowin whispered. "They're innocent." Innocence means nothing to Draven. He turned to face her, anguish filling his eyes. "This is my fault. If I hadn't—" "Don't." Elowin gripped his arms. You didn't choose this. Seraphina did. Draven did. The only way to stop the killing is to end their reign. With what army? The words were bitter, broken. I am one wolf. You are newly turned. Against the full might of Silvercrest. Then we find your loyalists. You said some escaped. Where would they go? Theron was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. There is a place, the Shattered Valley, where the old packs gathered before the unification. If any survived, they would have fled there. He shook his head. But it's a 3-day journey through open territory. Draven's wolves would find us before we reached the border. Then we go through the Vale, through your forest, the one they've been too afraid to enter for 7 years. Hope flickered in Theron's expression. The curse still lingers there. Even freed, those woods are dangerous. More dangerous than watching innocent people burn? Elowin met his gaze steadily. More dangerous than hiding while Seraphina wins? Theron stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, a smile curved his lips, not the gentle smile she had grown to cherish, but something fiercer, something kingly. When did you become the strategist, little light? When I mated a king who needed reminding that he's not dead yet. He kissed her then, hard and fast and full of promise. We leave at nightfall. They traveled through darkness. The Vale was everything Elowin remembered, and worse shadows that moved wrong. Sounds that came from nowhere. The constant sensation of being watched. But Theron moved through it like he belonged there. 7 years of imprisonment had made him part of this twisted place. By the second night, they had crossed into territory that even Seraphina's wolves avoided. That hope died at dawn. They emerged from the tree line into a small clearing to find a nightmare waiting. Wolves. Dozens of them. But not Silvercrest. These wolves were ragged, scarred, their eyes hollow with exhaustion. And at their center, bound in chains of iron, knelt a woman with flame-red hair. Lysera, Theron whispered. The woman's head snapped up. Theron? You're alive? He was moving before Elowin could stop him, dropping to his knees before the bound woman. I thought you were dead. His hands cupped her face. They told me everyone was dead. Almost everyone. Tears streamed down Lysara's cheeks. A handful of us escaped. We've been hiding, waiting, hoping. Her gaze moved past Theron to fix on Elowin. Who is she? My mate, my queen. The reason I'm standing here at all. Lysera's expression flickered before smoothing into careful neutrality. Then the realm owes her a great debt. Elowin approached slowly. What happened to you? Why are you bound? Draven's hunters found our camp 2 days ago. A massive wolf near Lysera spoke his form, rippling as he shifted to human, revealing a battle-scarred man with silver threading his dark hair. We fought, but there were too many. Lysera surrendered to save the pups. Then how are you here, unguarded? Because I'm bait. Lysera's laugh was bitter. Seraphina knew you'd come through the Vale. She knew you'd find us. Her green eyes met Theron's with devastating sorrow. It's a trap, Theron. They've been tracking us. A horn shattered the morning silence. Then another, and another. Wolves poured from the tree-lined Silvercrest wolves, their eyes bright with bloodlust. Within moments, the clearing was surrounded, and through the center of the army walked Draven. Uncle, he said, mockery dripping from his voice. How touching. A family reunion. I am not your uncle. Theron's voice was steel. Your mother spread her legs for my father, but that doesn't make us blood. Draven's smile didn't waver. Perhaps not, but it does make me your heir. His gaze slid to Elowin. Though I see you've been working on that problem. Touch her and die. Tempting. Draven circled them lazily. But I have a better offer. Surrender yourself, here and now, and I'll let your rebels live. Your mate, your loyalists, even the pups all spared. Elowin grabbed Theron's arm. Don't. He's lying. Am I? Draven's eyebrow arched. Mother wants you dead, it's true, but she wants the Lightbearer more. Surrender yourself, and I'll convince her that your mate is more useful alive. He shrugged. It's the best deal you're going to get. Theron was silent for a long moment. Through the bond, Elowin felt his mind racing, calculating odds, weighing lives, searching for any other path. There wasn't one. Theron, no. Elowin's voice broke. You can't. I love you. He turned to face her, and the look in his eyes shattered her heart. I have loved you since the moment you touched me in that clearing, and I will love you until the stars fall from the sky. Then don't leave me. I'm not leaving you. His forehead pressed against hers. I'm saving you, the way you saved me. His hands cupped her face. Live, Elowen. Grow strong. And when you're ready, his voice dropped to a whisper. Burn them all. He kissed her one last time. Then he stepped back, spread his arms wide, and addressed Draven with the calm of a king. I accept your terms. Take me to Seraphina, Elowen screamed as the wolves descended. But Lysera's arms held her back. She fought with everything she had, clawing, biting, blazing with light, but there were too many. The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was Theron being dragged away in chains. The last thing she felt was their bond, stretching, not breaking, but pulling so thin it might as well have been. And somewhere in the depths of her soul, her wolf began to howl. 3 days. Elowen lay in darkness, her body present but her mind somewhere far away following the thread of the bond, feeling Theron's pain like echoes of distant thunder. They were torturing him. She could feel it. Every lash of silver, every cut of cursed blade. He was dying slowly, deliberately. Seraphina was making it last. And Elowen could feel herself weakening with each moment he faded the bond, pulling her toward the same darkness. They had hours, not days. You need to eat. Lysera's voice pierced the fog. You need to stay strong. For what? Elowen's voice was hollow. He's gone. He's alive. As long as the bond holds, he's alive. And as long as he's alive, there's hope. Hope. The word tasted like ash. Seraphina has an army. I have a handful of refugees. You have more than that. The scarred wolf brand emerged from the shadows. You have us. Every wolf in this camp would follow you into the void if you asked. Elowen looked up, really seeing them for the first time. Haggard faces, starving bodies, eyes that had witnessed horrors she couldn't imagine. And yet they believed. Even if I could reach him, she said slowly, how do I stop Seraphina? She has centuries of dark magic. The prophecy, a new voice, soft, ancient. An elderly wolf emerged from a nearby tent, her white fur marking her as a seer. You know it, child. You've heard it in your dreams. Elowen frowned. When the light claims the dark, when the rejected becomes queen, the silver serpent will fall, and the true king shall rise again. The seer's milky eyes fixed on Elowen. You are the light. He is the dark you claimed. You were rejected, but you will become queen. I don't know how to kill Seraphina. You don't need to, the seer smiled. You need to free her victims. Every wolf she's corrupted, your light can sever those chains. Without her army, the serpent is just a woman, and women can die. Something stirred in Elowen's chest. Not hope, not yet, but something fiercer. Purpose. She rose to her feet. Where is she keeping him? The obsidian throne, Lysera said. A fortress built on the bones of fallen packs. No one has ever breached its walls. Then I'll be the first. Elowen's hands began to glow. How many wolves can fight? 43. 43 against an army. Elowen laughed a wild, reckless sound. Then we don't fight the army. We go around them, beneath them, whatever it takes. We get to Seraphina, and I burn her darkness until there's nothing left. And if you die? Lysera asked quietly. Elowen thought of Theron, his smile, his gentle hands, his voice murmuring her name like a prayer. Then I die next to my mate, she said simply. But I won't die alone, and neither will he. The obsidian throne earned its name. Black stone rose against the moonless sky, towers twisted like grasping claws. Wolves patrolled every entrance, their movements mechanical, bound by Seraphina's magic rather than loyalty. But there was one path the Silver Queen hadn't guarded, the catacombs, ancient tunnels beneath the fortress. Lysera had remembered them from childhood. 43 wolves crept through darkness and bone, following their queen into the heart of enemy territory. Elowen felt Theron with every step closer now, his pain sharper. Hold on, she begged through the bond. I'm coming. They emerged in the dungeons, and Elowen's heart shattered. Theron hung from chains in the center of the chamber, his body barely recognizable. Silver burns covered his skin. The cursed corruption had returned, spreading across his chest. His eyes were closed, his breathing shallow. Still there, she realized with relief. Weak, but still there. How touching. Serafina emerged from the shadows, her serpent smile firmly in place. Draven flanked her, along with a dozen of her personal guard. I wondered how long it would take. The Silver Queen circled the chained king. He kept calling for you, you know. Elowyn, 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 like a prayer. Step away from him. Or what, you'll glow at me? Serafina laughed. I've crushed lightbearers before. Maybe. Elowyn stepped forward, and light began to pour from every inch of her skin, not controlled, not contained, but unleashed. But I'm the first one mated to the true Alpha King, the first one with nothing left to lose. She didn't aim at Serafina. She aimed at the wolves. For the first time, Elowyn let her wolf surge forward completely. The shift was agony and ecstasy, bones reshaping, senses exploding, her form becoming something silver-white and blazing with inner light. A wolf like no other. A light-bearer in beast form. Light exploded through the dungeon, through the fortress, through every corridor and tower. It found the bound wolves, hundreds of them, thousands maybe, and severed the chains that held their minds in thrall. Serafina screamed as her army crumbled. Wolves who had served her for decades suddenly found themselves free, confused, furious. The sounds of battle erupted throughout the fortress as her soldiers turned on each other. No, the Silver Queen's composure shattered. This isn't you can't. I can. Elowyn shifted back, advancing like a fallen star. And I am. Serafina's hands rose, dark magic gathering, but she was too slow, too rattled, too alone. Draven tried to intercept, but Lysara was faster, her teeth finding his throat before he could shift. And Elowyn's light found Serafina. The Silver Queen's screams echoed through the obsidian throne as centuries of stolen power burned away. Shadows peeled from her form, revealing the twisted, withered creature beneath ancient beyond measure, sustained only by darkness. Please, Serafina gasped. I can give you anything. Power, kingdoms, anything. Elowyn thought of Theron, hanging broken behind her. Thought of Astrid, poisoned on the eve of her wedding. Thought of every Omega sacrificed to keep this monster fed. You have nothing I want, she said softly, and she burned Serafina to ash. Silence. Then Elowyn turned, staggering on legs that could barely hold her, and fell to her knees before her mate. Theron. Her hands found his face cold, too cold. Please, please, wake up. I did it. She's gone. You're free. No response. The bond was there, thin as spider silk, but present. He wasn't dead. Not yet, but he was close, and she could feel herself fading with him. Elowyn pressed her forehead to his, tears streaming down her face, and poured everything she had left into the connection between them. Her light, her love, her very life, if that's what it took. Come back to me, she begged. You promised. You said you'd love me until the stars fell. The stars are still there, Theron, so come back. For a long, terrible moment, nothing happened. Then golden eyes opened. Elowyn? His voice was a ruin, barely a whisper, but it was the most beautiful sound she had ever heard. I'm here. She was laughing and crying at once, pressing kisses to every inch of his face. I'm here. I've got you. I'm never letting go. The prophecy. His cracked lips curved into something like a smile. My queen. Behind them, wolves began to gather. Not enemies, freed wolves. Loyal wolves. Wolves who remembered the true king and fell to their knees at the sight of him. Long live the Alpha King. Bran's voice rang out. Long live the Queen of Light, Lysara added. The chant spread through the fortress, through the night, through the realm itself. Long live the king. Long live the queen. And in the heart of the obsidian throne, bathed in moonlight that finally pierced the darkness, the rejected Omega and the fallen king held each other. They had won. They had survived. And their story was only beginning. 6 months later, the coronation was held beneath the full moon, in the hallowed caves where they had first completed their bond. Elowyn stood before the gathered packs united for the first time in centuries, and felt her mate's pride flowing through their connection. Theron placed the crown on her head himself, not the twisted silver of Serafina's reign, but something new forged from moonstone and light. My queen, he said loud enough for all to hear. My mate, my home. Elowen rose, taking her place beside him on the throne. The wolves howled their approval, a sound of joy, of healing, of hope, and somewhere in the back of the crowd, a small Omega girl watched with wide eyes, seeing for the first time that rejection wasn't the end of her story. It was only the beginning.